Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Job Breakdown. Today we're taking a look at Warrior. Warrior is still a lot of fun. I think in a lot of ways they just made Warrior better. It didn't really lose much. It did lose some of the basic combos it had. It all ties back into one main combo now. There are a couple small things that I wish would change about Warrior. But for the most part, I think Warrior's really solid. And definitely still the one that feels like you're doing the most damage of the tanks, even though Paladin, I think, is actually doing a little bit more. But with Warrior now, you have your basic combos of your Heavy Swing into Maim, and then you can use Storm's Path. Storm's Path will get you a slight cure effect. It's pretty nice, not bad at all. And then you also have Storm's Eye, which gives you the damage up here. Definitely want to balance between those two, keeping Storm's Eye up at all times, while also making sure that you have Storm's Path going to be able to get that cure potency. Because again, there's no reason not to get that extra healing. That's going to be your main single target rotation. You have your AoE rotation in the form of Overpower, followed by Mithril Tempest. When you are pulling, I find that with Warrior specifically, hit the first mob with a Tomahawk, which is your ranged attack, and then use a Mithril Tempest trait, because Overpower is one of the very few AoE abilities that has to be targeted, which means that you have to already have a target to be able to hit with it. And if you hit the first mob in a pack of mobs, and they all come running around you, it's a lot easier to just throw out that Mithril Tempest, even without the combo potency, to be able to grab the aggro for all of them. In other damaging moves that you have, you do, of course, have your Beast Gauge. We're going to go ahead and turn on Defiance here, just to get the extra effect on there, even though, obviously, if you're not main tanking, Defiance is not super applicable. Your other damaging moves are, of course, tied to this gauge, as we said a moment ago. And this is one of my complaints, comes with this as well, in the form of Onslaught. Your Gap Closer is tied to the Beast Gauge, whereas none of the rest of the Gap Closers are. It also doesn't have a charge like the other Gap Closers. And it costs 20, and that may not seem like a lot, but your main goal with the Beast Gauge is always going to be setting up Cleaves, and that eats into your Cleave window, which is unfortunate. From there, of course, you're going to want to just keep using your basic combos, making sure that you have Storm's Eye up, and then you're going to want to utilize this for Cleaves. Fel Cleave, of course, is your bread and butter. It does so much damage. It's very nice, has a chance to crit, but as you can see, it eats up 50 of your gauge. Now you can get gauge back by using your basic combos. You'll get 10 back a piece for both Maim and either Storm's Eye or Storm's Path. So it does add pretty quickly, and you also regain it in the course of your AoE rotation once you are at 80. Which, again, a couple combos were already back up to 70, but you eat it very quickly with just a couple of your abilities. Warrior has this wonderful effect called Infuriate that lets you get 50 right away, and it upgrades your Fel Cleave into Inner Chaos. Inner Chaos is very nice. 920 potency is insane. And, of course, it also reduces the cast time of your Infuriate for a little bit, which is very good. As you can see, very, very nice ability. We'll also get into Decimate in a minute and what it can do. And we'll get into Upheaval as well. We'll talk about Inner Release, and we'll talk about the best ways to be using Inner Release, you know. But let's build up a little bit more of this here. You get a little bit extra Beast Gauge when you use your Storm's Path. I think that's supposed to be an incentive to make you actually use Storm's Path and not just always Storm's Eye. But it pays off, I think. It's worth it to continue using your Storm's Path to get that extra. So Decimate is your AoE version for your Beast Gauge, and Onslaught is just a very nice Upheaval, not Onslaught, I'm sorry. Onslaught's your Gap Closer. Upheaval is just a very nice 20 cost ability that you can do pretty often. It's not bad at all. Decimate upgrades into Chaotic Cyclone, which is very nice as well. There's no reason not to be using these. And we'll talk a little bit about the Inner Release window here and how you should be weaving those in with your Infuriates. Then we'll get into your defensive cooldowns from there. But Inner Release is your big ability. With it, you can use as much of your Beast Gauge as you want for no cost. So you're going to want to be mixing in with your Cleaves, Upheavals, Onslaughts, and then while you have it activated, if you Infuriate, you get the bonus of the extra gauge, and you still get to use the more powerful version of the ability, because while inner release is active, all of your attacks that you use are guaranteed critical and direct hits. So you'll be able to see quite a bit more damage with it, and we'll line up a full window for that in a minute. I also accidentally fat-fingered Vengeance there, but that's okay. We can talk about Vengeance last. So your defensive cooldowns, that's the thing you're going to want to be using a lot as a tank, right? Raw Intuition is probably the best one for you. It's only good for 5 seconds, but you get it back every 25 seconds, and it's basically like a Rampart, just for free, every 25 seconds. You're going to want to be using it all the time. There's no reason not to. You have no excuse. The only reason you would not want to use Raw Intuition is if you're using Nascent Flash. Nascent Flash shares a recast with it, and the big advantage for it is that it basically gives you Bloodbath back. So you use it on another party member, and then it absorbs damage equal to damage dealt as HP, which is really, really nice. And it's good for 6 seconds. So when you're with other people, you're going to want to use it. It does not work when you're by yourself, but when you're with a party, you're going to want to put that on another party member, especially if you're off-tanking. It's very good to be able to put that on the main tank. You also have Equilibrium, which is just a cure. You can just heal yourself. Not quite as good as like a Clemency, because Clemency you have all the time. You can spam it as long as you have MP for it. But still, every minute you can restore a 1200 potency cure, which is not bad at all. You also have Thrill of Battle, which will increase your max HP, and then also restores the amount increased. So it's very, very nice. You also have Shake It Off, where you can shake off other effects to get a shield. It affects Thrill of Battle, Vengeance, and Raw Intuition, which increases that shield. And the shield is not just for you. When you use Shake It Off, it's good for everybody. The basic version of the shield's pretty good, but when you pair it up with, say, a Raw Intuition and then Shake It Off, you get an even better shield, which is not bad at all. Then, of course, you have Rampart, Shirk, Provoke, Arm's Length, Reprisal, Interject, and Low Blow, just as we've talked about with the other tanks. You also have your Invulnerability, Home Gang. What makes Home Gang special is that you basically stop the target from moving as well, and you cannot be dropped down to less than 1 for 6 seconds. The big advantage there is if you're about to die, obviously Home Gang you don't die, but you can also stop a boss from moving. If there's a mechanic that you want him to get hit by, or somebody's about to try and hit him with something big and he's running away and you don't want it to ruin the cast time on it, you could use Home Gang. There are times where you want to line those two up together. And then your last big defensive cooldown is Vengeance. Every 2 minutes, you can reduce the damage taken by 30%, and it delivers an attack of 55 potency every time you suffer damage. That may not seem like a lot. 55 potency is pretty low, but it happens every time you take damage from every source. So Vengeance is super worth it, especially in trash pools. Finally here, we'll use a full window of inner release. This is how I normally use it. I start with a Fell Cleave, hit with an Onslaught, go ahead and do another Fell Cleave, then I'll use a Upheaval, go ahead and do another Fell Cleave. I'll go ahead and burn one, hit with that wonderful Inner Chaos, get another Fell Cleave, use another Infuriate, hit another Inner Chaos, followed up with another Fell Cleave. And as you can tell, we did quite a bit of damage in that very small window. It's very easy, especially if you're off-tanking warrior, to be able to get aggro from the main tank with that window if you don't have Provoke up. So definitely something to think about. And I'm sure there are better ways to even do that window than the way that I did it, but that's the way that I normally do it personally. Warrior's just a lot of fun. The main thing that I would change still is Onslaught being on the Beast Gauge. I think that really hinders movement that Warrior has as compared to the other tanks. And other than that, I think that Warrior's pretty solid. I think it has really, really good recoverability between Thrill of Battle and Equilibrium. Shake It Off, giving a shield, Raw Intuition so quickly. Defensively, it's probably one of the better tanks. Offensively, it feels good to play, even if you're not really doing as much damage as some of the other tanks. But it just feels satisfying to land all of those Fell Cleaves back to back to back to back. You're very sustainable. You're good for the rest of your party. Warrior is just still one of the best tanks, for sure. And there are quite a few fights that I would rather have a Warrior than anything else because of that sustainability, especially in, you know, some of the new Eden's Gate stuff. We'll do that one more time here. Just roll through it. Get some of those great damage ups here. And I bet if you use the Infuriate earlier, then you would have the other one back by the time your inner release window was done and your gauge was burned. But I'll need to play around with that some more and see if you can't squeeze another one up there, especially if you get some extra skill speed. Regardless, let me know what your thoughts are on the Warrior in the comment section down below. And until next time, remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Warrior has to offer.